In this quick Cinema 4D tutorial, I would like to show you a simple method to make dynamic objects float in the air. So let's take this cube for example. If I hit play now, nothing happens because there's no dynamics associated to it. But if I go into simulation tags, add a rigid body, it will respond to gravity, which at the moment means it will fall down. So let's play with the gravity settings. To do that, we go into project settings under edit, and under dynamics, general tab, we see the gravity setting. Right now it is set to 1000 centimeters, cube falls down. If it is set to minus 1000, the cube will float up or move up at the same speed as positive 1000. So if positive values cause the cube to fall down and negative values cause it to move upwards, what happens if it's at 0? If the gravity is at 0, our rigid body cube will just remain unmoved. It will just remain in that same position we left it in, which is great. So now effectively it's floating in space. I can move its position on frame 0 and it will just remain there. It just doesn't look nice because it doesn't really have any movement to it and therefore doesn't look like it's floating. So we will add a little bit of movement so it looks a little nicer. A simple method to do that is to go into animation tags and add a vibrate tag. And if I now enable position on this vibrate tag, we will see it moves, and it just moves, it moves, it moves. It's not really what we want. And the way to fix this is to go into the rigid body tag, go to force, and play around with follow position. So now I'm gonna go to follow position 10, and we see that is better. It's kind of remaining in the same spot and moving around the same spot. And now we can make this effect a little more subtle, maybe by putting it on this axis to 2 centimeters, X, Y, Z, then maybe 2 centimeters over here. One centimeter up and down. That looks much better. And if we feel so inclined, we can also add a little bit of rotation to it. 30 degrees will be way too much, so maybe let's do 1, 2, 3, whatever. I'm not a scientist. And we can see some interesting stuff happening. But now it kind of tips over. I don't really want it to tip over. Maybe that's what you're going for, but for me, I would like it to kind of keep its rotational position. I can do that by adding follow rotation. And then I just crank these values up and play around with them until I'm happy with the overall effect. And yeah, that is how you can make a floating object. And obviously the more time you spend on these settings, the better the effect you will be able to get. And that is a very simple way to create floating dynamic objects in Cinema 4D. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I will do my best to help.